the side, from the back line. And that was pretty scary for BlossoM. I think they really have to think of that false set again going into Sky Temple now.
Yeah, Sky Temple for game 2. You know what's scary too, Jeff, when you think about it? If we go back to the draft, they started off with Malfurion, Blaze, ETC. They didn't really reveal too many plans, but Tracer ban comes out, right? If they tried to ban Falstad, for example, then they just take Tracer. Like, it's a really cool composition, it's a really smart draft by Tempest, and we talked about how these two teams are the biggest innovators in Korea, whereas in the top 4, KSV and Ballistics play much more meta, much more standard. And it's cool to see that this team has developed such a strong, unique drafting style. It's so difficult to draft against them. Almost no team will draft the Falstad in this situation. Almost no team will play like this. But it's hard to ban these things out. Obviously, we only have 4 bans currently. And so, you know, you get stuck in the mindset as BlossoM did. You can see their heroes, their timers ticking down to, like, 5 seconds left every time they logged in. It's tough to predict everything Tempest is going to do, and you can't remove all options. They're so good at meta style, a weird style, and you never know, there could be a third thing that you've never seen before. You have to try to think about that too.
Yeah, that's exactly why they are banning Malfurion instead. Good, having such a large hero pool on that solo lane. Even Thrall came out a few times, once only, but still, he's playing lots of that in Hero League. We see that a lot as a strong tool, especially on this map and Dragonshire. And also, Signs got a huge tank hero pool. One of the biggest ones, actually. ETC, Muradin, anything's possible. Anubarak.
Tracer.
Yeah. That too. So instead of going for that huge hero pool, just going for that Malfurion ban, just take out that pair. And when Tempest has their 3 comfort heroes, that's when they excel. Like the old Tempest with Falstad, Sonya, and Rhaegar.
Yeah. I think the Malfurion ban is fantastic because it works against both potential styles, right? So looks like this is what they think is the new hot, right? Is this double roaming potential high pick-based early game where you're trying to get several kills and snowball. And while you do this, it's a win more comp, because if you do that while Falstad's pushing in the top lane, you're like, huh, I'm winning everything. And if you fail to get those picks and Falstad's still on top lane, everyone's trying to rotate and punish the ETC Blaze, which is tough to do. Falstad still gets value, so it controls 2 facets of the game. It's like this tug of war, but BlossoM is the rope, and they're getting yanked on 2 sides.
These are the best right now. One of the best pair as a tank in the solo lane, because they have good wave clear. Of course, ETC even more after 7. Lots of CCs. They can also sustain, so they don't need as much healing compared to the other tanks.
Yeah, that's true. So going back to the Malfurion ban, it means that at least that roaming early game is no longer a problem. The potential Tracer pick is no longer a problem. That's why I think it's such a safe ban. So Dahaka coming in early here, that's going to be very strong against potential Falstad play to help mitigate the global. And, in lane, obviously, Dahaka could do okay. It's really about the tongue grabs if you win it or not. But it's a safe, smart ban early on here, a very strong hero for Wiz. And Tyrael works well with a lot of different things, including the Genji, but we'll see how they fill this, the last 2 heroes out before we could really make claims on how effective that will be.
Good amount of shielding on your teammate can actually help you win the team fight so hard. It's kind of like healing in a way, big time, but thinking of a Zeratul ban when Dahaka's already picked? Okay,
yeah.
That's an interesting one. Maybe they just have that on and they're considering about something else, but they are actually banning that Zeratul.
This is before the changes to Zeratul, of course. They're on live patch to remind everyone.
We're on Maiev patch, the 30.0.
Yeah, no Maiev enabled, of course. Junkrat also disabled, but there's a Falstad ban, and now I'm starting to feel like this is a strong draft for
They
BlossoM.
can go back to their favorites. Of course, they already have Blaze. But even without Falstad, they have their favorite, Rhaegar, or even Karazim if they want to go in. Now, this makes a good amount of sense for them to bring up Mage here. And I think they're just going to go with all that. Li Ming, a little bit too hard against that Genji and all that shooting from Tyrael. Yeah. Maybe just to cool down for that wave clear, and then they can just go around the rotation.
I think Tychus is still a strong pick, but it's going to be Greymane. Obviously, first of all, in terms of the first DPS, that was going to be the case no matter what, regardless of the Mage potential pick you were talking about for 5th. Because when you have Uther and Greymane available, you just simply don't pass it up. And I'm hoping it's that poke build again. Even though it was not for Tempest last game, I thought it was a really cool build, and I'm excited to see if that continues. Now we're going to find all the answers to what BlossoM's planning here. Because Dahaka doesn't gain value from Sanctification that well. Like, what's this 5th pick? Is it like a Vala? Is it Dudu's Vala, please?
Lucio?
Like, if you have Tyrael and Lucio, and you have a Vala, like, Vala never dies, right? And you have a lot of sustained damage. You're playing against Uther, who has horrible sustained healing, only burst healing. Can we see Dudu's Vala here? Like, all cameras on Dudu right now. Would love to see Vala Genji here. Genji gets so much from the Sank. Lunara, so similar role. Slow, sustained damage against Uther's healing. You've got sustained healing from Lucio. You've got Tyrael's new shields with his rework. Fantastic composition here from BlossoM. You've removed the threat of a global solo laner, so you don't have to worry about those rotating picks with the ETC Blaze anymore. You're not worried about that top lane. You've got Dahaka there. This is a smart draft from BlossoM. Really impressed.
They're going in for their old picks. Hanzo last pick. Wow. Really seeing some different style of drafting tonight. It's similar picks, but the order is so different and what they prioritize. It is the first Lunaro game from Korea this season.
Yeah.
And Lucio still had 0 and 10. You'll see reasons why coming up. At least there's no Nubarak on the other side, so it's going to be a lot easier for him to provide that sound barrier every single time.
That's definitely true. And they have Sank as well, so killing Lunara is going to be a difficult task. Genji's Dragon Blade, of course, slightly nerfed on this patch, but still very potent. It wasn't, like, removed, okay? We've seen heroics removed from the game before, but not in this case. I'm not talking about Zeratul Shadow Assault. I'm talking about some heroics that have been really nerfed.
Palette now.
I'm not gonna name any. Not gonna name any of the old ones, but yeah. So if Lunara does enough damage to set up for an amazing Dragon Blade, like it's gonna be similar to what we saw last game, where if Divine Shield, or in this case Sank, or Sound Barrier has to be used early in the fight, you're gonna lose it every time. But if the Sound Barrier and or Sank can be used for Dudu's Dragon Blade after Modern Life's done all the damage, they're going to have great opportunities to win team fights. It's going to be tough for Uther to keep up with the healing. Bunker will be very useful, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for Tempest, but I think that the comp here for BlossoM is well suited for team fights, and they have global control. I like their position here a lot.
Yep, and I think this kind of... We can already tell that this really fits BlossoM, and of course Tempest with ETC, they're gonna have an easier time rotating up and top bottom. Let's see how they want to control the map before that the Haka power comes online.
I love watching Nasung's Lucio. It's always a treat. It's really interesting that we're seeing so much roaming in the early game in this series. Not really common in Korea to see this amount of it, but you have a lot of siege potential with some of these heroes to put some damage onto a wall, but it's really just kind of risky what BlossoM is doing considering they're up against ETC Blaze.
It's also a good strategy. Now with the voice chat available for all games now.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
I always tell my teammates, if there's an Hanzo onto the other side, do not stand in line if we have the wave clear. Just clear the wave and do not give that stack on the symbol geometry. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Okay, this is a failed invade. You can never really invade against ETC Blaze at this stage in the game, you know, barring some sort of weird scenario happening. I never say never, but in this case, like, definitely not going to work. Interesting idea. The problem with it is it made their camp time slower, which means that Tempest gets this free top camp. They've got Blaze and Greymane, so you can see how quickly Dami and Good can just dispense of this and then head straight back to lane. Dami's going to go mid, and Good's going to go take the top. In fact, actually, looks like they want to lane swap this a little bit to put some more pressure onto Dahaka. A smart move, and it's going to help them win this lane a little bit harder. BlossoM is just simply absent at the moment. Wiz even out of the lane. This is going to do so much. We're going to actually have a little mini team fight up here.
Yeah, top. They lost some XP. Also, they're losing the mid one as Sign is already clearing up that lane. Yeah. They're doing tons of damage to the wall
Hanzo,
already.
Meanwhile, nearly dies in the bot lane. That was, you can see the observer almost clicked on that on the mini-map if you're watching that mouse, but that was the one thing BlossoM had going for them, was almost a solo kill here with no protection, but spoiler alert for this one, like, it's pretty good for Tempest, this trade. They got a whole wall, and sure, had it been even from the start, Lunara would have helped dispense this quite quickly, but because they were behind in rotation, this all goes back to that failed invade on the Siege Giants that slowed everything else down. And then Greymane was able to come to the top lane to clear waves so the minions could help push this. And yeah, they end up after that, 4v4, they get their camp pushing forward. See the Knight camp survives, but it doesn't do anything. This wall takes a pitiful amount of damage, and now they have to leave.
And you really have to make your camp into something else, like push all the turrets, because now they have all the ammos, and they never run out of ammos. You have to really push in with your teammate or with the camp, at least to destroy a tower there.
Yeah.
And they did all that for Tempest BlossoM. They didn't do even 10% of what Tempest did in the top lane.
No, not even. You're absolutely right about that. And that's one of the changes that I feel a little bit weird about. It's getting me a long time to get used to in my solo queue games. I play a lot of solo lane.
It's so much harder because you have to make your rotations work so much more ineffective. If you lose that, you lose so much more time rotating around.
Yeah, it's actually really tough to punish alone. You really need a bigger rotation to actually get that damage done. But Tempest was one step ahead because they cleared the camp while BlossoM was trying to invade. Ended up getting a pretty even split on these temples. As Sign uses his power slide to wave clear. Don't ever do that. That was a scary moment there. Ends up being fine at the end of the day.
Well, with the pinball, that's an okay one.
Sure.
With the power slide with the space melt. That's how I wave clear now. I learned it from the pros. That's what you always do. You learn from the pros, and you play the game, but it's never the same.
It's never the same.
Yes, it's never the same.
Oh, by the way, we should really mention we talked about Hanzo's nerf. One of the big ones is his level 7.
Yes.
It does not do 4 seconds. It's 2.5 for Scatter Arrow now, if I'm not mistaken. So
it was still very good.
Still very good, but like definitely not as good as you can see. It's still pretty much busted.
It's a big nerf, and also the auto attack one's nerf too.
Yeah.
But still very good.
Yeah, he wasn't alone in this case, but still pretty strong. You can see with the ETC Blaze, though, how much control Tempest has over these camps. And BlossoM is just kind of shuffling their feet a little bit, trying to figure out what to do at this moment. Dahaka's getting most of a fort in the top lane, but with 2 camps here, total control to Tempest at the moment. They have an experienced lead, and Wizard's just doing what he can, but he needs to maybe come and get a pick, or else this still just isn't worth it. In fact, he might not even get it, which is the saddest thing. I think he just barely will not. So frustrating right now. If they lose this healing fountain, that's going to make the next phase even tougher too. And
I think even before that, Tempest will be hitting that 10.
Yeah, definitely.
They have 26 7 seconds to work around. I think they will be 10 and 1/3 of EXP by that time, maybe.
Well, this is going to be pretty rough. Because unfortunately for Dahaka, his only objective here, oh my god, they're going to get boss too. This is horrible for BlossoM. So, only thing that Wiz can do in the top lane is get that fort, and that will barely get them 10, but he can't do it in time. Then after that, he can't do anything else during this temple, actually. Like, he can't pressure another fort. There's not really much he can actually do during this specific phase of the game. Because they're dealing with boss, and in fact, like, he's going to get the top fort. Blaze is just going to go up there and continue soaking the lane. Hanzo's going to soak mid. They don't need everyone down at this temple because the boss already kind of gives them that protection. This is an opportunity for BlossoM to get a pick, though, when there's only 3. Good cleanse here. Oh, Nasang went too far forward for that, though.
Man, Sign survives, and they lose Lucio, their biggest one protect. I guess he pressed on that sound barrier, but didn't pop up.
Yeah, he was killed, I think, before it was activated. Like, if Lucio's killed when he's kind of in the animation, it just goes to the 10-second, he dies. Like I said, they didn't need everyone down because of the boss. They committed to everybody, and so Tempest rotate down. They reacted quickly, and now they could just simply finish the temple shots off. They killed the bot fort, did a little bit of damage to the keep wall. They have this Knight camp coming now. Can't believe there's only one Wiz and Duelist stack here for Dami. I guess he's just hasn't really had to shoot anybody. It's you know, I think it's every 10 auto attacks you get 1 stack. So
with the Dragon Strike, Mosh Pit still a question.
Ooh, that's a good drag right there.
Drag, the damage comes in, but Uther providing that armor, even the
Divine Shield, stage dive too. Okay, Sank here gonna make sure nobody dies, but this is still amazing for Tempest. Here comes the Dragon Strike to zone. That might actually secure them killing the Gondar. Not gonna happen. And again, G-Club, this is one of those textbook examples of if you have to use your protection before the Dragon Blade comes out, you can't really Dragon Blade very well, can you? So, this is rough. They're gonna escape now, Tempest can. They're not gonna look for another fight here with Heroics burned. But this is another massive win for them.
Still Dudu's looking for that angle to go in. I think he really needs to step up and look for that angle to the back line, possibly taking out Hanzo. But oftentimes it is protected. And Uther, all he has to do is protect either Hanzo or Greymane going in. That's perfect with ETC, as you mentioned. With plays, they get to self-sustain unless they're in like super big of a trouble, which in this case, they can have their own escape in lots of the times.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised. Hold that thought. Good's gonna bunker. Is this a bait? This might be a bait.
Time.
Oh man. He is a skilled baiter, as they say. Not gonna actually be able to get any picks off of this though. That was a pretty cool idea though. Wiz missed another tongue grab. I don't know if that would have even been good for him to get that, but
Lockdown finally finishes level 1 perfect simple geometry.
Yeah. This is not something that BlossoM should contest. They should leave. The Wisp told the story there. I wanted to pick your brain about this, though. I feel like it's a little bit weird to me that Modern Life is playing Lunara instead of Dudu. It's such a Dudu-esque hero. I think Dudu was actually the first person to create a play Lunara, like back in Season 1 of OGN. It's his play style. You know, he was like the Korean version of Quagnix in terms of Lunara expertise. Just feels weird to me that he's not on it. Felt like a perfect pick for him.
That is very true. And because they have a global, they can also trade Temple, but because of so much zone potential in CC for Tempest, Deaka could not find the hole yet coming in from the back line.
And like the siege push here just is so difficult to break when you have this much stun potential, as you're saying. Good is just so well sustained. You were mentioning this earlier because he has such good sustain. He doesn't need the Uther heals very much. The same with ETC. They don't need those Uther heals as much. So you can put all those into the Greymane, into the Hanzo. And I think this just barely gets it. I'm like, suspense! Oh, no, actually it does not. We're at 10 minutes into the game, not 20 minutes in the game. All right.
Still, Dudu's trying to make something happen. Dappa comes, a perfect drag, way too late. Lockdown, perfect escape there.
Lockdown wasn't even scared because he knew he had Divine Shield to work with. He's got the Dragon Strike available. BlossoM needs to be careful not to get too stuck into this choke point. Because even though Dragon Strike is basically only a tickle gun, you know, it does do a lot when you get stuck in a choke point where you can't really leave. Dude needs to be careful about doing this. Okay, does get out. Here's the stage dive. Sank to counter it. Dragon Strike well placed. And look at where Modern Life is. He's way out of the fight. He can't do any damage. He's split off. Gondar trying to help come over here and give some smite for retreat. They'll drop the shield, and nobody dies in this team fight, but BlossoM loses a lot of their health bars. Bloss is up in 3. They have Sank used now, so that's kind of unfortunate because it would have been so good to actually start taking this boss with. Kind of odd, the scenario we have here, because Tempest just simply leaves. And BlossoM doesn't know where they are, so can't actually take the boss.
Still, they do have Holy Ground, so that's a big tool for taking away.
And Sound Barrier.
And there's no Mosh Pit for Tempest. But the problem will be Bunker. Do they have enough Bunker? Do they have enough damage to melt down that Bunker? That's going to be a lot of time that they need. They're going in.
Okay, this is risky, what BlossoM is trying to do, and it does not pay off. Nasong's the first to die again. Look at Dami going in deep. There's the go for the throat kill. Dudu massively on retreat. No Dragon Blade for this guy this game. I don't know if we'll ever see one. Cool attempt here from Gondar to save Dudu's life. Looks like it does work, but they're going to lose boss for it. 3 are dead in this nearly flawless game so far from Tempest. That's going to be dead boss. And Tempest is just running away with this game. And BlossoM, they're taking fights, I feel, that are unnecessary to take. And this is the second game in a row where their heroes that are supposed to kind of carry the fight cannot do so because of the blunders of someone who overextended. In this case, it was Nasong. Last game it was Gondar. So Sanks have to be used too early. Sound barriers have to be used too earlier. And, you know, no sound barrier to be used. In this case, where Nasong just dies before anything can happen. Here comes the stage dive. Modern Life going to be the target. Just barely leaps away with his little deer legs here. But this is going to very likely be game. Not a whole lot to defend with this. They've got Sank and Sound Barrier. Better make use of them, or this is going to be game over.
If they lose even one, then that's going to be...
Sank interrupted.
Yeah, I think that's his game. 2 kills, and that's going to continue.
Yep, boss on the core.
That's going to be a lot of more damage. Modern trying to do what's possible, but let's see, at least...
I mean, there's 4 Siege Giants here. Can they get any more kills? Dudu, will we see a Dragon Blade for this player this game? I think the answer to that is already no. Down he goes. Divine Shield just to make sure nothing happens. And that's going to be an 8-0 kills, 13-minute game. Tempest takes game 2 now on match point.